One of the big questions on everybody's mind is how. How do companies look at and integrate with the future of supply chain? With some thoughts on what's next, please welcome to the stage Lippert Components SIOP Manager Matt Getz and Director of Supply Chain Kristen LeBaron.
Well, good morning, everyone. Matt Getz and I are here to discuss how Lippert Components has turned risk into opportunities and how that has led to many unexpected benefits for Lippert Components. But first, we'll start with introductions. My name is Kristen LeBaron. I'm the Director of Supply Chain. I've been with Lippert for roughly 12 years. I started in 2006 as a systems business analyst, and during that time, I was responsible for assimilating a company-wide rollout into one ERP platform. And then in 2014, I was offered an opportunity to create Lippert's first supply chain organization. So that, my primary initiative really became to build a supply chain culture within our company that had a high sense of urgency and sense of accountability. And that led us to evaluating multiple supply chain softwares, and we're here to talk about that today.
Good morning. My name is Matt Getz. I actually have a new title. They call me a solution architect. I'm still not sure if that was a promotion or a demotion from S&OP manager. I've been with the company for about 4.5 years. I was one of the first people that joined Kristen's team.
So some quick company facts. Lippert Components is a tier 1 supplier serving the recreational vehicle, the residential housing industries, as well as adjacent industries, including the bus, cargo, equestrian trailer, marine, and heavy truck. We have over 65 facilities throughout the United States, Canada, Ireland, Italy, and the United Kingdom, and have more than 10,000 employees working together to build innovative product and service solutions to our customers every day. I think one thing that's interesting about Lippert Components is the fact that we've been led by 3 generations of family leadership, and we are a highly growth company. When I started in 2006, we were doing about $400 million in revenue, and we are approaching $2.7 billion this year. And we recently found out we're expected to do another $800 million in acquisitions. Right now we're acquiring about 3 to 5 companies a year. But that also presents a lot of the business challenges that we've spoke about last year and some of the risks that we're turning into opportunities this year.
Right, so last year, if you were here, we talked a little bit about the stages of demand and supply planning that we've gone through. And so we talked a little bit about, here's our location.
No, it's okay.
Scattered across the US and in Italy as well. So we talked about why we chose Kinaxis briefly then, and I'm not going to go through this in detail, but basically we were looking for a demand planning solution to do statistical forecasting, consensus demand planning. And then we were down the road, we wanted to use it for supply planning, basically replacing MRP in our systems, and then introducing things like capacity constraints and that sort of thing. And we chose Kinaxis because it fit those criteria better than any other software, and we've been very pleased. However, one of the unexpected benefits, or a number of unexpected benefits has come out, especially in the last year. So as the title of our talk is Turning Risk into Opportunities, this has been a challenging year. There's been lots of different things, both external and internal in our organization, that has challenged us, that has challenged our business processes and our ability to execute. And so RapidResponse in all kinds of interesting ways has helped us respond to those challenges. So turning risk into opportunities, otherwise known as unexpected benefits of RapidResponse. So first, it's sort of at a high level, the unexpected benefits of RapidResponse. Primarily, it revolves around the ability to mine data. So if you're a user of the system, you know that there's lots of data in the system, and because it's stored in memory and because of the architecture of the system, it's really easy to join that data in interesting ways, to plumb the depths of a lot of data very quickly and find answers to questions that you didn't even know you had until somebody came to you with a very pressing need. On top of that, because of the sort of data mining capabilities, ease of reporting. You can build reports very quickly, very easily, things that are repeatable, things that become standardized, which in our company, we have something like 60 business units that are sort of cobbled together from acquisitions that do not share all the same practices That is a gross understatement. So we're rolling out standard reporting on certain metrics. And then lastly, development does not require a computer science degree. I don't have a computer science degree. I have degrees in philosophy, if you can believe it. I don't know SQL. I don't know any programming languages. I haven't learned Python or JavaScript or R. I don't know any of that. And yet, I feel quite comfortable developing in RapidResponse. Our team is filled with guys and gals who don't have a computer science degree, don't know any programming languages, don't know SQL, and they feel very comfortable developing in RapidResponse. It's been a wonderful, unexpected benefit.
So Matt went through a lot of the selection criteria that led us to selecting the software, but one of the things that I wanted to emphasize was the big picture benefits that we were really focused on, like S&OP and demand planning, inventory planning, production planning, capacity. It probably sounds all familiar, right? We heavily weighted these areas and the functions that were capable in each of these areas. But one of the things that we really didn't look at was how this was going to impact other roles within our organization, like a production manager, engineer team, sales teams, finance groups, inventory managers, let alone vendor collaborations. So when you think about it, when we started extending this access, for example, for our engineers, they were able to do a BOM analysis. They could identify all the top-level assemblies. On top of that, they could look at, item uniqueness by product or by customer. Salesforce didn't even hit our radar. They actually started their journey about 2 years earlier than us. And now we're looking at integrating with Salesforce, pulling in those sales opportunities, and also providing our sales teams a lot of different workbooks to perform costing analysis. Our finance groups, they're looking at historical costing, inventory turns. Inventory managers, they're looking at a number of workbooks. I mean, you can slice information any way that you want to in RapidResponse. Unit by excess or shortages, turns, forecast accuracy. These are all things that you're going to see throughout our presentation, but the last thing was vendor collaboration. Providing a holistic view of our entire supply chain, all the demand and supply, what we have on hand, what our suppliers have on hand that they're managing for us, and on top of that, what they have overseas. Having that connected planning view.
Fun fact, so when we started this implementation project 2 years ago, we started out with, I believe, 10 user licenses, and we thought, let's not go crazy. Maybe at some point we'll have like 40 users, and we're up to 120, and we're probably going to add about 40 more here in the next 6 months. So it has grown in scope very quickly. So we want to give you a few examples, though. We've heard a lot of strategic discussions this morning. We're going to take you into the weeds a little bit. So first unexpected benefit of RapidResponse is virtualizing our historical demand. We are a highly configurable product company. Most of the items that we sell are customer specific, and they can change on a moment's notice with small changes. So our finished goods history is very haphazard, very unpredictable, but at the raw material level, it's rather predictable, or at least more predictable. But as you know, when we build things, we run out of things. I mean, we're not perfect. And so then we make substitutions, and then we lose the consumption history of what that should have been. And so we had all of these problems with our demand history, trying to project what our future demands are going to be because our historical demands were such a mess. RapidResponse has enabled us to virtualize our historical demand using our historical sales orders, our active bills and materials, and then we've built in a few other controls of like if a customer decides that they're going to buy their products elsewhere, we can just remove their sales history from the historical demand creation so that we now have a cleansed historical demand on which we can do our forecasting. We run this every single morning at 2 a.m., and we've got so much more control now over our historical demand for the prediction, for our forecast predictions. So that's unexpected benefit number one. Next, BOM analysis. When you look in the ERP and you look at a bill of material, whether you're doing a where use or whether you're looking at the BOM lines, you only see that one level, and then you got to go to the next level and the next level. And of course, we've built SQL queries to build out fully indented BOMs or to do fully where use stuff. Those SQL queries, though, the performance is, well, sometimes terrible, especially if you're trying to do, say, a massive where use, say on 1,200 products that are going to be suddenly impacted by a tariff that was announced maybe a month ago. those kinds of BOM queries take a long time, and then when you're aggregating that sort of that amount of data, everybody gets kind of queasy, you know, like, is this really accurate? You're depending on lots of things, right? Things that you can't do data validation on really quickly like you can with like a single addendum BOM. Bringing this into RapidResponse has enabled us to have a sort of a discount double check on those kinds of BOM queries, and we're actually migrating to just using RapidResponse exclusively for these kinds of BOM queries. One other example, we had one of our biggest business units was migrating from previous ERP to new ERP, and we discovered in the implementation on second or third day that there was a fundamental problem with one product line, that they had just completely ignored some problems with their bills of materials, because in the old system, they knew how to work around it. And the old system was much more flexible. It didn't require good practices. It didn't require good data management. And so they would just monkey with the bills of materials as they would go along. Well, new ERP system doesn't allow that sort of shenanigans. So shut down the line on the second or third day. No one saw it coming. And to identify those kinds of bills of materials problems, again, using SQL queries, was going to be a long and arduous project. We were on site to help support the go live, and they just said, hey, Matt, can you come to this meeting? They're talking about some BOM problem. And just in the 20-minute discussion, I said, I think we can solve this in like half an hour. And we did. And instead of taking it days and days and shutting a production line, we were able to get them back up and running by the afternoon. Example number 2.
So another unexpected benefit is the BOM cost versus average selling price. So this is a custom workbook that we've created and kind of parallel with our finance team. So currently our finance team receives a monthly report to review margin. And they'll take, if there's any issues with any of our products that we're selling, they'll take a snippet and they'll send it to our sales team, our internal sales teams, and they'll requote it if possible. But a formal review is not really done. It's done about once a quarter. And that's a problem, right? There's a lot of lag time in that process, in the process of reviewing. And on top of that, when they receive this report, they're combining a lot of offline spreadsheets. Things like labor and overhead, because not all of our routes capture that information correctly. And things like vendor rebates and vendor terms. So they're taking all these spreadsheets in combination with the report that they receive from our BI team to combine them together to get a total manufacturing cost. Now, the whole purpose of this workbook is to give them that instant visibility, at least once a month, if not more frequently. So what this workbook does specifically is you get 2 different views. One, you can look at the average selling price at an aggregate view, which is basically all the products you've sold across all your customers. And then you can look at the total manufactured cost based on the units that you sold, and you can specify that period. And then you can net the difference, and you can see your gain or loss. The second option is you can disaggregate that by customer. So you have it by account, and you have 2 options. You can look at it by average selling price, or you can look at a trade agreement, the current trade agreement or a future trade agreement. Again, compare that to the total manufacturing cost to see your wins and losses. But beyond that, this is the benefit with these workbooks and RapidResponse, right, is that we provided a couple more options. What if I'm in third quarter and I know that I dropped 2 points? I want to figure out what impacted my bottom line. Well, we want to provide the capability of taking snapshots, which we have been, of time. So if I wanted to compare the products that I sold in quarter 3 to quarter 1, I can do that. And I can look at the products that I sold, the cost that I manufactured them at, and the price that I sold them at to figure out what products impacted me significantly. And then on top of that, we can create scenarios. So another way of analyzing costs is if I was to create a child scenario, and like Matt mentioned, with the tariffs that have been applied, I may want to increase, my unit cost by 15 or 25%, which is a lot of the increases that we've been seeing lately. And again, if I use that scenario, I can flip between my baseline and my child scenario, and again, I can look at my costs that way as well. So the next spreadsheet, this is a workbook that we actually developed in the last week. Our vice president of supply chain wanted to understand the total cost impact related to the tariffs, or if a vendor was to give a specific increase, regardless of what it is, it's a cost impact analysis. And basically the ability of this workbook allows you to do several things. One, you can import kind of a time-phased cost. So if an item is going to go, you have a cost that's going to be increased by 15% this month, and 4 months you're going to have another increase of 5%. You can have that time-phased cost in here. What that does is it uses the cost impact date, It takes a snapshot of your current inventory on hand, calculates how many days you have on hand, how many days you're going to consume it at that old layer price, and then based on that impact date, it uses the combination of your forecast and planned receipts to calculate what your impact cost is over time. So the benefit of this is it identifies at the component level which components are going to impact our bottom line, and then we can refer back to the BOM analysis workbook that I previously described, which allows us to identify, again, how is that going to impact our margin, because we got to look at it two different ways, one by price and two by volume. So.
We've also built a number of inventory workbooks to help our inventory managers and our purchasing teams determine whether or not their inventory is healthy or not. And if you're familiar with inventory quality ratios, standard out-of-box inventory metric that's built in RapidResponse, we've utilized that, but we've also built our own way of calculating our inventory targets. And so we took essentially a terrible spreadsheet and rebuilt it into RapidResponse, because I have a principle: if I can build it in Excel, I should be able to build it in RapidResponse. I've yet to find a counterexample to that principle. And so we built our way of doing it into this tool, and then we combine them. So now we can compare our inventory targets, and whether or not we're healthy or unhealthy, with standard IQR metric. And this has been a really fast and easy way for our inventory managers to do quick analysis on what's good and bad. Instead of having to run a report that we do, like, say, every 6 weeks and have a meeting on, they can just pop in the tool and look at it whenever. Similarly, we not only give them a snapshot of what's right now healthy and unhealthy, but also future looking. So I can see in the future, when is SKU by SKU, when am I going to be going below my safety stock? When am I projected to go below my safety stock? Am I presented with a potential shortage? And then how, in the future, where am I most below my safety stock, or vice versa? When in the future am I first going above my target, and then when in the future am I highest above my target? So I can hopefully plan for and avoid those unhealthy inventory. And then lastly, inventory turns. So inventory turns, a standard metric. It's super laggy. We don't love it for that reason. It's not a leading indicator. It doesn't really tell you how you're going to be doing or how you're projected to do. But still, lots of people want to know, like, how have I done? And especially if I find myself in a situation where I've got too much inventory or I've got a shortage, well, what sort of was my historical performance? So we built this workbook to calculate the turns on any given product. And it's looking at historical on hand, but also historical costs. So it's more accurate than our reports were, SQL-based reports were. And you could choose any day in the past. So I could say, well, what's my turns on this product right now? Or I could say, like, well, 6 months ago, what was my turns on this product? And so that you can toggle back and forth that way.
So I like this workbook. It's called Historical Planning Analysis. So you can generate a forecast on a monthly basis, but there's a lot of influence, right? I mean, you're not just using your statistical baseline. You could be incorporating sales opportunities from your CRM tool. You could be influencing, you could have marketing adjustments, overrides. There's a lot of different things that could happen. If you push that forecast, a lot of different decisions may be made beyond that, right? They may not follow it exactly. How many times have you ran out of a part and everyone said, it was not me? So we built this workbook to kind of give everyone kind of, a historical view of what their statistical baseline was, what the sales opportunities were during that time, if there were any type of adjustments that were made, overrides to those adjustments, and it gives you the historical consumption actuals for the demand that fell in that period. And then again, like Matt mentioned earlier, it shows you the virtualized demand, which is reflective based on our active bill of material. But again, as a buyer, if I'm reviewing or if I'm looking at my forecast accuracy, I can now look at historical periods and see exactly what were the decisions in each of those buckets. So the last one is a spreadsheet that used to be managed outside the system, and this enables, it was to basically set up our vendor managed warehouse programs. We built this workbook in RapidResponse. It's helped significantly. It allows our vendors to collaborate. It gives you that holistic view, again, of all of our demand and supply. So this may look a little bit familiar. We've retitled some things, but this is basically the planning sheet. So it shows everything that we have on hand, which connects, again, with our suppliers' information. They have the ability to import their details, so everything that they have on hand, what they have on order, and on top of that, what they have overseas. So it gives them 3 levels of managing inventory, not just at our location, at their location, and what they have coming in.
So in summary, lots of things that we didn't expect. When we were looking for softwares, we weren't looking for a software that helped us to do BOM analysis or helped us build out some of our inventory reports in order to standardize metrics and reporting. We were looking for a demand planning tool, and we were looking for eventually, hopefully, growing into a supply planning tool. But all of these things kind of came as a sort of happy present in addition to what we were looking for. And we wanted to share this with you mainly because it's an excellent opportunity. We'd love to talk to anyone who's had either similar experiences, or if this has spurred an idea in you, or if you're like, hey, we're doing something that's along the same lines, or anything like that. We'd love to talk with any of you to learn about how maybe you've had some unexpected benefits from RapidResponse as well.
One thing I wanted to add is the fact that everything that we've been able to develop has been out of the box. The only additional, I guess, upfront cost that we've had is just our time and resources to develop these workbooks. So to be able to empower all these different groups has been kind of truly remarkable over the past year. We've had a lot of teams gravitate to it. And I guess the one thing that I wanted to leave with you guys today is if you're a visionary person, you can kind of think it, you can build it in RapidResponse. And that's exactly what we're trying to do.
Thank you very much.